Namaskar. The topic of discussion in this module is about the Arctic Ocean. The oceanic region around the North Pole is named as the Arctic Ocean. The Arctic Ocean is the smallest of the world's 5 major oceans. It occupies only 3.3% of the world's oceans. The Arctic covers a vast ice covered region bordered by the Greenland, Canada, Alaska, Norway and Russia. The Arctic Ocean is entirely covered with ice for almost 8 months of a year. The drifting polar ice pack covers the central and western portions of Arctic all through the year. The sea temperatures seldom rise above 0 degree centigrade over this ice capped terrain. The Arctic has been the object of much exploration by various workers including the geographers. One can travel to the other side of the globe in the shortest distance by a plane between the continents in the northern hemisphere by crossing over this Arctic. The Arctic Ocean is the most inaccessible and least studied of all the Earth's major oceans. Due to the extreme climatic conditions, the floor of the Arctic Ocean has been studied less than that of any other oceans in the world. Studying the geographic and oceanographic conditions of the Arctic Ocean are very interesting aspects due to several reasons and amazing facts. Among the oceans, the Arctic is a unique region. It is an ocean of ice, water, rocks and resources with human and other fauna and flora. Hence, the following aspects are included in this module: the geographic setting of the Arctic, the morphology of ocean floor, the fauna and flora of the Arctic Ocean, the human life and population thriving in Arctic region, and the impacts of global warming on the Arctic Ocean. Let us see the first part, geographic setting of the Arctic Ocean. If we look at the globe, the area of the Arctic Ocean can be defined as the region north of the Arctic Circle above 66 degree 33 minutes north latitude. Arctic region covers a total area of 14.056 million square kilometers. It includes the Baffin Bay, the Barents Sea, the Beaufort Sea, the Chukchi Sea, East Siberian Sea, Greenland Sea, Hudson Bay, Hudson Strait, Kara Sea, Laptev Sea, Northwest Passage and other tributary water bodies. Nearly landlocked, the Arctic Ocean is bordered by Greenland, Canada, Alaska, Russia and Norway. The Bering Strait connects it with the Pacific Ocean and the Greenland Sea is the chief link with the Atlantic Ocean. No country owns the geographic North Pole or the region of the Arctic Ocean surrounding it. The surrounding Arctic states that border the Arctic Ocean are Russia, Norway, the United States, Canada and Denmark via Greenland. All surrounding countries have areas limited to a distance of 370 kilometers range only, that is up to 200 nautical miles distance of their economic zone around their coasts. Geologically, a large basin is occupied by the Arctic Ocean in the center of it. It is surrounded by the ancient continental shields of the North America, Europe and the Asia. Geologically, more recent lowland plains, low plateaus and mountain chains exist at the center of the Arctic basin. In the Arctic region, surface features vary from low coastal plains to high ice plateaus and glaciated mountains. In climatological terms, the Arctic is defined in terms of the treeless zone of the tundra zone and of the regions of permafrost in the northern hemisphere. Tundras, extensive flat and poorly drained lowlands dominate these regions. In the Arctic, the most notable highlands are the Brooks Range of Alaska, the Inuitians of the Canadian Arctic Archipelago, the Urals and the mountains of eastern Russia. Greenland is the world's largest island and has a highly elevated plateau occupied by a vast ice sheet except in the coastal regions. much smaller ice caps are found on the other Arctic islands. The climate of the Arctic, classified as polar, is characterized by a long cold winters and short cool summers. The polar climate may be further subdivided into tundra climate and ice cap climate. Precipitation in this region is entirely in the form of snow. Snowfall is very low, with the annual average precipitation for the region is less than 51 centimeters. The climate in the Arctic is characterized by the persistent cold and relatively narrow annual temperature ranges. The winters are characterized by continuous darkness, cold and stable weather conditions, and also clear skies. The summers are characterized by continuous daylight, dampy and foggy weather. Sometimes the region experiences weak cyclones with rainfall or snowfall. Coastal Arctic climates are moderated by oceanic influences, having generally warmer temperatures and heavier snowfalls than the colder and drier interior areas. Great seasonal changes in the length of the days and nights are experienced by the north of the Arctic Circle. Variations that range from 24 hours of constant daylight or darkness at the Arctic Circle to 6 months of daylight or darkness at the North Pole are the typical observations of this region. Some regions are considered as the land of the midnight sun. Let us see the second part, morphology of the ocean floor. The Arctic coast encompasses 68% of the Canada's coastline, stretching to 165,000 kilometers from the James Bay and Baffin Island to the Yukon. The region exhibits a wide range of coastal landforms and relief features created by the processes like volcanism, glaciation, faulting and folding. About 12 to 13 million square kilometers of the Arctic basin are covered by ice in winter. Additional sea ice covers much of Baffin Bay and Hudson Bay as well as the Labrador Sea. Nearly all of the Arctic and subarctic shores are ice bound throughout the winter. By late summer, the amount of Arctic sea ice is reduced to about 9 million square kilometers. The average depth of the world's continental shelves is about 200 meters, but the continental shelf of most of the Arctic Ocean region are at least 200 meters deeper than the world average. This difference is due to the result of the last glaciations. The weight of the ice pushed the northern continents down deep into the Earth's crust. The Arctic Ocean has the widest continental shelf when compared to all other oceans. The continental shelf extends up to 1210 kilometers seaward from Siberia. From the shelf rise numerous islands including the Arctic archipelago, Novaya Zemlya, the New Siberian Islands and the Wrangel Island. The continental shelf encloses a deep oval basin which has an average depth of 3658 meters. This basin stretches between Svalbard and Alaska. In the Arctic Ocean, the greatest depth of 5441 meters is found just north of the Chukchi Sea. The ocean floor morphology of the Arctic is divided into three major submarine ridges. They are the Alpha Ridge, the Lomonosov Ridge and the Arctic Mid-Oceanic Ridge. The other submarine ridges such as the Faroe Icelandic Ridge act to separate the Arctic Ocean from the Atlantic Ocean. The central submarine ridge, the Lomonosov Ridge, runs 1770 kilometers from the Ellesmere Island to the New Siberian Islands. The planet's geographic north pole is located over the floor of the Fram Basin. The Nansen Basin is the smallest of the subbasins within the Arctic Basin. The Arctic Ocean Basin is a large deep depression. It is situated under the cover of the Arctic permanent polar ice cap. This depression gradually slopes towards the seafloor in the slope of a basin or bowl. This basin extends from the edge of the permanent ice cap in the north part of the Beaufort Sea to the northern tip of the Greenland. It runs along the northern edge of the Queen Elizabeth Islands to the tip of Ellesmere Island. The abyssal plains are the very deep and extremely flat regions of the ocean floor. Some of these flat regions reach to the depths of over 4000 meters and stretch for distances of more than 500 kilometers. The Barents abyssal plain is located in the heart of the Fram basin at depths of over 4400 meters. The Alpha Mendeleev Ridge divides the Amerasian basin into the Canadian basin and the Makarov basin. The Makarov basin is comprised of two abyssal plains, the Wrangel abyssal plain and the very deep Siberian abyssal plain. The Siberian abyssal plain lies 4000 meters below the ocean surface. The Canadian basin is the largest subbasin of the Arctic Ocean. It is comprised of the Chukchi and Mendeleev abyssal plains at depths of 2100 and 2900 meters respectively. The dominant oceanic current in the Arctic basin is the Beaufort Gyre. It is one of the two main currents of the Arctic Ocean. This current causes the polar ice cap to rotate continuously in a clockwise direction. The Beaufort current brings warm water from the Atlantic Ocean into the Arctic Ocean basin by way of the Greenland Sea. The cold Arctic currents give the shores of northeast North America and northeast Asia a much colder climate than the northwest shores of Europe and North America. These regions are warmed by the North Atlantic drift and the Japan currents. The Arctic currents are also less saline and lighter than these warmer currents. Let us see the fauna and flora of the Arctic. There are three distinct biological communities existing in the Arctic Ocean. They are the sea ice realms, the pelagic realms and the benthic realms. The sea ice realms include plants and animals that live in and just under the ice that floats on the ocean surface. About 50% of the ice melts in the summer, and ice floes can exist for many years and can reach a thickness of more than 2 meters. The sea ice is not usually solid like an ice cube, but is riddled with a network of tunnels called as brine channels. Diatoms and algae inhabit these channels and obtain energy from the sunlight to produce biological material through photosynthesis. Bacteria, viruses and fungi also inhabit these channels. These organisms, together with diatoms and algae, provide an energy source for the other life forms like flatworms, crustaceans and other animals. This community of organisms is called as sympagic organisms, which means ice associated organisms. Partial melting of sea ice during the summer months produces ponds on the ice surface that contain their own communities of organisms. Melting ice also releases organisms and nutrients that interact with the ocean water below the ice. The pelagic realm includes organisms that live in the water column between the ocean surface and the ocean bottom. Melting sea ice allows more light to enter into the sea. Algae grow very rapidly due to the sunshines of 24 hours a day during the summer. These algae provide energy for a variety of floating animals that include crustaceans and jellyfishes. Zooplankton in turn is the energy source for many larger pelagic animals including the fishes, squids, seals and whales. When pelagic organisms die, they settle down to the ocean bottom and become the energy source for inhabitants of the benthic realm. Sponges, bivalves, crustaceans, polychaetes, worms, sea anemones, bryozoans, tunicates and ascidians are the common members of the Arctic benthic communities. These animals provide energy for bottom feeding fishes, whales and seals. In contrast to the hard bodied animals like crustaceans, relatively little is known about the delicate gelatinous zooplanktons existing in the Arctic oceans. There are about 20 species of land animals living in the Arctic Ocean. These include the squirrel, wolf, fox, moose, caribou, reindeer, polar bear and musk ox. About 6 species of aquatic mammals including the walrus, seal and whale survive in the Arctic. Most of the species are year-round inhabitants of the Arctic. They may be migrating to the southern margins as winter approaches. A variety of fish is found in the Arctic seas, rivers and lakes. The Arctic's bird population increases tremendously each spring with the arrival of the migratory birds. During the short warm season, a large number of insects breed in the marshlands of the tundra. Vegetation in the Arctic is limited to the regions having a tundra climate. Vegetation flourishes during the short spring and summer seasons. It includes dwarf shrubs, graminoids, herbs, lichens and mosses which all grow relatively close to the ground forming tundra. The tundra's restrictive environment for plant life increases towards the north. Due to this, the available dwarf trees giving way to the grasses comprising many mosses, lichens, sedges and some flowering plants also. In the coldest parts of the Arctic, much of the ground is bare. Only non-vascular plants such as lichens and mosses predominate along with a few scattered grasses and forbs called Arctic poppies. The Arctic includes sizable amount of natural resources like oil, gas, minerals, fresh water and forest resources. The interest of the tourism industry is also seen on the increase in these regions. The Arctic region of Russia, the most developed of all the Arctic region, is a vast storehouse of mineral wealth including deposits of nickel, copper, coal, gold, uranium, tungsten and diamonds. The North American Arctic yields uranium, copper, nickel, iron, natural gas and oil resources. Let us see the human life and population thriving in the Arctic region. The Arctic region is one of the world's most sparsely populated regions. Many parts of the Arctic were already settled by the Eskimos and other peoples of Mongolic stock when the first European explorers, the Norsemen or the Vikings appeared in this region. Its inhabitants, basically of Mongolic stock, are thought to be the descendants of a people who migrated northward from the Central Asia after the Ice Age and subsequently spread westward into the Europe and eastward into the North America. The chief groups are the Lapps of Europe, the Samoyeds of western Russia, the Yakuts and Tungus, Yukahirs and the Chukchis of eastern Russia and the Eskimos of northern America. There is a sizable Caucasian population in Siberia and the people of Iceland are nearly all Caucasian. In Greenland, the Greenlanders, a mixture of Eskimos and northern Europeans predominate. The earliest inhabitants of North America's central and eastern Arctic are referred to the Arctic small tool tradition AST, which existed up to 2500 BC. The Dorset culture refers to the next inhabitants of the central and eastern Arctic. This culture got re-evolved because of the technological and economic changes occurred or happened during the period 1050 to 550 before Christ. The Dorset culture moved into Thule culture around the 9th to 10th centuries. By 1300, the Inuit, the present day Arctic inhabitants and the descendants of Thule culture have settled in the West Greenland and moved into East Greenland afterwards. Over a period of time, the Inuit have migrated throughout the Arctic regions of Canada, Greenland, Russia and the United States. The other circumpolar north indigenous people include the Chukchis, the Evenks, the Inupiats, the Contis, the Koryaks, the Nenets, Samis, Yukagirs and the Yupiks. Because of their common background and the general lack of contact with the other world, the Arctic people have strikingly similar physical characteristics and cultures. They have similarities in such things like clothing, tools, techniques and social organizations. The Arctic people were once totally nomadic, but they are now largely sedentary or semi-nomadic. Hunting, fishing, reindeer herding and indigenous arts and crafts are their chief activities. It was Fridtjof Nansen who drifted towards the North Pole with his vessel Fram in the year 1893, but unfortunately he failed to reach the North Pole, but he provided enormous information about the Arctic Ocean which helped us to study the Arctic Ocean in detail at a later period. Air exploration of the regions began with the tragic balloon attempts of S. A. Andrews in the year 1897. The use of the Great Circle route for the world air travel increased the importance of the Arctic after these periods. Before World War II, the USSR had established many meteorological and radio stations in the Arctic. In the World War II, interest in transporting supplies gave rise to considerable study of the Arctic conditions. After the war, interest was shown by the people about the Arctic. Upon ratification of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, a country has 10 years to make claims to extend its shoreline 200 miles inside the oceans. Due to this, Norway ratified the convention in 96, Russia ratified in 97, Canada ratified in 2003 and Denmark ratified in 2004. All these countries have launched their projects to establish claims that certain Arctic sectors should belong to their territories. Between 1935 and 1991, about 88 polar crews established and occupied scientific settlements on the drift ice and conducted experiments and surveys. During the International Geophysical Year in 1957 and 58, more than 300 Arctic stations were established by the northern countries who are interested in the Arctic regions. Atomic powered submarines have been used for penetrating the Arctic. In 1958, the Nautilus, a US Navy atomic powered submarine, became the first ship to cross the North Pole undersea. Over a period of time, Arctic has also shown increased economic and political role in the world affairs. Due to this region has experienced an inflow of personnel moving around the roads, mineral extraction sites, weather stations and military installations. Let us see the impact of global warming on the Arctic. The Arctic Ocean is especially vulnerable to the effects of global warming. It is also experiencing apparent melting of the sea ice in recent years. Climate models predict much greater warming in the Arctic Ocean than the global average. In addition, there are concerns about the Arctic shrinkages. This is the consequence of melting glaciers and other ice in Greenland. This could contribute to a substantial rise in the global sea levels throughout the world. Climate models give a wide range of predictions on Arctic sea ice loss, showing near complete to complete loss in September anywhere from 2040 to sometime well beyond 2100. About half of the analyzed models show near complete to complete sea ice loss in the September by the year 2100. As per the estimate made through remote sensing, numerical models and other methods, there is going to be a strong loss of ice in the Arctic Ocean in the near future. The current Arctic shrinkage is leading to fears of Arctic methane release. The release of methane, which is stored in the permafrost, could cause an abrupt or severe global warming. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas. Previous incidences of methane release events have been linked to the great dying, mass extinction events at the boundary of the Permian and Triassic periods. It was also seen during the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, in which temperatures abruptly increased over these areas. Global warming could rise the sea as much as 1 meter in the next century by heating the ocean water. The ice sheets of the Arctic would melt or slide into the oceans. Thus, the sea could reach heights unprecedented in the history of human civilization. The rise in sea levels would be disastrous for many people and for so many places. Islands would disappear due to this, meaning their millions of inhabitants would have to relocate from those places. Flooding would occur along the coastlines all over the world, displacing more people and ruining the croplands. Hoffman, who analyzed these data, posed the results for global sea level rise up to 2100. Under the high scenario, the sea level will rise to about 117 centimeters by 2050 and 345 centimeters by 2100. It means many of the coastal regions will be submerged because of this sea level rise. The situation will be alarming to the Arctic Ocean also. In case of major global warming and melted ice caps, some countries might simply disappear. Very little work has been done concerning the impact of a global warming on deglaciation. Global warming, if uncontrolled, could cause a major catastrophe to the oceans like Arctic Ocean. Let us protect these oceanic resources in the world.